Who saw this coming? I had no idea this was possible, but we're getting a Three Houses spin-off in the vein of Age of Calamity, using time travel to explore a what-if scenario, focusing on a specific story and cast instead of using space-time as an avenue to tell a crossover story. I'll touch on the box art, then we'll go to the trailer proper. No upside-down Claude, but the three lords are positioned the same way as they are in the original box art in their new time-skip outfits that are sure to come to Feya's ult and guarantee Edelgard a spot on next year's A Hero Rises voting gauntlet too. I really like these designs. Edelgard's armor looks lighter than her canon time-skip outfits, so she may not be an armored unit this time. Also of note is that she doesn't use a mirror but a silver axe. A mirror was forged for her during the original time-skip. That, plus Dimitri keeping both eyes, suggests that the timeline was changed somewhere in the first half of the original story, or at the very least the change happened sometime before the second act. Female Byleth is crossing blades with a new character in the middle of the screen. This man is dual-wielding two swords. One is a katana with sakura petals on the hilt, while the other is a brand new relic. Byleth on the other hand is wielding a silver sword, which will be relevant later. Also, while female Byleth has been chosen as the canon option, I'm sure male Byleth will appear for supports and side content. The first Warriors game took the same approach for its avatars. Male Robin and female Corrin were chosen for the story, but the others were unlockable later. The cynical side of me isn't surprised female Byleth was chosen, but she does form some nice symmetry with Edelgard and Rhea being the other people of interest in the original story, and is shippable with all four lords, so She also makes more sense as Sothis' host and bears greater resemblance to Citri than male Byleth, to be fair. I just hope she gets to talk this time, as she does in Heroes, but I won't get my hopes up. At the very least, people will refer to her by name. Above them are Sothis and a new figure, likely a new deity who we hear at the start of the trailer. If this is another deity, maybe she's the source of the new guy's sword? There's evidence of alternate reality jumping too from her dialogue early on, so maybe she and the man are an alternate world's equivalent of Sothis and Byleth too. Also, make a note of her mask. This will come up later. We see the start of a battle at Garrick Mark, with a different faction seen post-timeskip given the color coding. We'll see evidence of a timeskip later on too, but for now it's noteworthy that there will be a more melee artois battles like the one at Granda Field, though the stakes could potentially be higher this time given the location. There are no yellow troops though, instead we see the black of the resistance. Either Claude chose to mask his troops of his own volition, or he allied with Byleth early on this time around, as in Verdant Wind.
The cycle of this world. I will not allow it to perish with you.
We hear a new female voice, which isn't Byleth's. Byleth is instead surprised by something sneaking up on her. This may not be a physical presence though. She could have heard a voice, or even this voice, and after all, she has a goddess inside of her head. It's not a stretch to suggest this new figure is non-corporeal too. The ghostly outlines around the screen also suggest this. The woman says that she won't allow the cycle of this world to die with Byleth, which sounds like she wants to stop the incoming war. Or at the very least, it means she thinks Byleth specifically is important to the world and wants to stop her from dying. I read a suggestion that this story branches off after Byleth is knocked out at the start of the timeskip, for example, but I have an idea we'll discuss later.
I seek to destroy the irrational power structure that shackles...
We start seeing gameplay, and the interface is a blend of warriors and three houses, complete with reusing the latter's portraits. Edelgard has a health bar and either 2 energy bars or 2 segments in 1 energy bar. As we'll see later, I suspect the first is a regular special attack energy bar, and the second is related to unique actions. She's very open about her plans in the dialogue, which didn't happen until just before the timeskip in the Crimson Flower route, or her support with Byleth, so this could be audio taken from the equivalent of that point in the story. Here though, the student she's talking to appears to be the new character. He's wearing a student uniform and his hair is too short and purple to be anyone else's. Even Lawrence's is a lighter shade. And of course this can't be male Byleth in an alternate uniform either. If this newcomer is an antagonist, he's infiltrated the school to stir up more chaos. Or maybe he's trying to stop the war by befriending Edelgard instead. Honestly, he reminds me of Aigami from the Yu-Gi-Oh movie.
If the kingdom is ever to part ways with our bloody past, this is the path we must walk.
Dimitri gameplay next. He has the same UI as Edelgard, but next to the second yellow bar has two lance icons, so this is likely part of a second ability everyone has, or a unique action as I mentioned before, as Dimitri has an A button prompt over the first bar, like Edelgard did. If you played Age of Calamity, you know what I'm talking about. He's talking about choosing a path other than violence, which could be typical Dimitri talk, pre-time skip and post-character development, but could also mean he knows about the future and wants to change it. This won't be the last time this idea comes up.
I have ambitions, Edelgard. Real ones.
Claude next. He's on foot instead of getting a wyvern, so he at least is getting two unique movesets, though we'll see later that he can dismount from the wyvern. In case of the former, maybe Edelgard will have both an armoured and an infantry moveset. His unique action bar is empty, suggesting he already used it before this point. He's talking about ambitions with Edelgard in a casual tone, so maybe she really does open up about her goals early on. At the very least, it doesn't sound like something they'd be talking about post-time skip. Speaking of, we see some late game stuff. We see a close-up of Edelgard in her new design. She's leading an attack on Garreg Mach, much as she did at the end of Act 1 of the original story. This fact throws the idea of a 5-year skip into question. Claude lacks his beard later on as well, and while Dimitri does look different, that could simply be a fashion statement. Or perhaps the time skip isn't as long as 5 years as it was before. For now though, the mission is to prepare an attack on Garreg Mach by defeating Sero's soldiers. There is a prompt to return to camp, hinting at more overworld stuff as in the original, and the reward for the mission is an added activity point, so we know those are returning as well. So maybe this isn't a story mission at all, but a side mission to make the story easier. For example, completing Dimitri's paralogue in Azure Moon made the following invasion of Enbar easier as he eliminated the source of the reinforcements. A similar situation could be happening here. Territories are marked with red and blue highlights, with the main area, the monastery, having a large chess piece compared to the others. There are also houses on the map. These may give you someone to talk to and or get items from, like in the GBA era games. It remains to be seen if there's a route split here, or if Edelgard takes matters into her own hands like she does in the non-Crimson Flower routes. But even if she is with Byleth, it's possible Byleth changes her mind later on, or has an ulterior motive, as we'll see later.
Will you sit around and wait for a miracle?
Complicating the time skip matters further, we see Edelgard in the same design as before, but this time with Hubert in a new outfit too. He could perhaps also simply be wearing new clothes and a new hairstyle in the original time period, but we'll have to see. As an aside, Edelgard is wearing her hair in a similar fashion to her New Game Plus style, only this time her ponytail is on her right instead of her left.
Or will you help me seize control of my...
This next bit is really difficult to see, but not only do we see the new Claude and Dimitri right after, we also see a MiG wielded by what looks like Monica, aka Kronia, clashing with Ariadbar. Of note is Claude being in the Barbosa class at the time. If my theory that everyone is informed about their futures is true, it's possible that all three lords will get their lord equipment earlier to prepare for an even earlier war, which would explain all the design inconsistencies we've seen so far.
Wait.
I chose this screenshot just to show that Claude is lacking his goatee and looks like his younger self, just like Edelgard. As I said before, Dimitri may only look different because of this different hairstyle. We see Rhea in action, so we know she'll be a part of the story too. Hopefully she'll be playable. Tiki in the original Warriors could switch between human and dragon forms, so there is precedent for shape-shifting style. This and the following scenes are set at night though. Either this is one long battle, or two or more separate battles. The time of day seems to be somewhere in the middle when we see Byleth near the end, so perhaps the former is the case. And here we see a redhead. I first thought this was Monica, but she wears her hair different, and the Monica we know didn't wear those earrings, nor did she use magic. Then again, we didn't know much about the latter, so maybe she could and we just never saw it. Regardless, this is the one wielding Emir earlier, and as I said earlier than that, Emir was forged for Edelgard, unlike the other relics which were passed down through generations. Either Edelgard commissioned it earlier than we thought, and Monica is just an Agarthian delivery girl, or the girl is another OC bringing it over from either the future or another world. The earrings she wears show up later too, so keep an eye out for that.
We shall fight! We shall survive!
We see the three lords meeting on the battlefield. Again, Edelgard doesn't have a mirror, even though it is somewhere on the battlefield. Maybe the girl is trying to bring it to her?
And we shall win a glory!
Claude and Dimitri team up at least once to save Dimitri's troops from Edelgard's, judging by the colours on the surrounding soldiers' armours. I've taken part in a number of Golden Root theory crafting threads, and they all suggested these two would be the easiest to align, so this doesn't surprise me.
Future for Fodlan!
I'm Now that I know...
But it's immediately followed by something that does surprise me. Edelgard and Dimitri are broken up by Claude firing an arrow between them. While Dimitri talks about winning a glorious future, Claude instead talks about avoiding past mistakes. Not only does this confirm that he at least knows about the future, he seems to be actively trying to avoid bloodshed, which would mesh well with the previous scene. Who knows, maybe Dimitri was about to go ballistic right then too, had he not stopped them. It's possible that this version of the time skip, regardless of how far that skip actually is, will start off similar to Verdant Wind and incorporate the other lords later, and as I alluded to earlier, Byleth may be part of this considering how protective she is towards her students, and of course, Claude is easily the most neutral party of all the different factions at play here.
I won't make the same mistake again.
Jurith from the Alliance appears as a boss for Edelgard. It remains to be seen if she'll be playable or not, but as an important person on Claude's side, it makes sense for her to be here. There doesn't seem to be any indicators about a weapon triangle here either, considering she uses a sword on Edelgard and axe. Then again, neither the Three Houses nor Warriors had one, so no surprises there. Edelgard activates a Crest of Flame so she can still access it, and Crest Bearers will still have that element intact here, which, of course, brings to question which of the many characters in Three Houses will be playable here. Dimitri does a combat roll. Dodges and dashes had been in Muso titles before, but never so fluid as this, so this is a great touch. He's fighting Randolph here, and the map has changed from what was either the ruins of Xanadu or the old area where Geralt died to the Great Bridge of Myrddin, just rotated 90 degrees anti-clockwise. He does another roll against a monster, showing that these will also be making the jump to Three Hopes. This one appears to be an unmasked giant demonic beast, which aren't affiliated with any faction. Please confirm me if I'm wrong. The next shot is Claude, now airborne, fighting a wild demonic beast at Arion Road, a Fargus territory. Either he snuck in or he's allied with Dimitri. These demonic beasts are also not explicitly created by any other faction. We see he also has a unique action here, which appears to be some sort of bombardment effect. By the way, these unique actions may be the replacement for battalion moves, or may even be battalion moves. In the next shot, Claude has dismounted, which may be why his unique action meter has emptied and caused to question that earlier shot we saw of him. We also see his icon here. It looks just like his timeskip version minus the beard. Again, this doesn't necessarily confirm or deny a timeskip, just that his new look has a new icon. The story comes back in full force in the next scenes. This particular shot seems to be the inside of a life pod in Agarthia, given the water and the Tron lines on the floor. Maybe where one or both of the new OCs came from, if they are Agarthan creations. We know for sure that they'll have a part in the story at least.
Revenge is not a...
We hear Sothis talking about taking revenge for someone else here, which could mean Byleth is initially prompted to change history by avenging deaths in another timeline, such as...
thing you take for someone else.
Geralt. He gets up out of water here. Considering he died in the arena originally, this could mean he survives that, which in turn means either Byleth prevented Monica's stabbing, or events changed so much that that scenario never happened. Again, this would also leave her without anything personal to seek revenge for, as Sothis said before. After a quick shot of Dimitri in his uniform, we see Rhea again. She seems to have been struck in the back of the head, as light is escaping from it in multiple particles and streams, likely struck by an Agarthan or otherworldly weapon. Presumably this is how she's defeated in this version of events, instead of being swarmed by beasts. This is followed by Edelgard clutching her head in pain. This could be her crests acting up, but maybe Byleth isn't the only one getting mental images this time. The new characters could even be messing with her some other way, either to stop or exacerbate the fighting. The black clover shape attached to her hair is the same as the redhead's earrings, so maybe that was Monica after all, just in a new style like everyone else. And for that matter, maybe everyone's getting a new style. Or rather, everyone gets a new outfit, maybe new hairstyle, except for Byleth, I suppose. Though that isn't new either.
You seek revenge to slake your rage and heal your wounded heart. I know you are prepared to...
We see Byleth fighting the new character. She has awoken to the powers of a goddess, but notice that she's still wielding a silver sword. And also, pay attention to the auras. She's using Sothis' power against an ordinary foe at the start of this very fluid-looking fight that I love already, while her opponent doesn't, even though he already has the Relic sword from the cover. But after Byleth almost stabs his neck, he's covered by a purple aura and turns the tides. Not only does he now have an aura too, this time he also has scales over his face, much like the girl in the cover, suggesting he has also fused with the god like Byleth has. He breaks her sword with his relic, though that may not be significant beyond a symbolic sense. But I ask again, where is the sword of the creator? If Byleth has awoken, does this mean the timeline changed as early as chapter 4? Or did Byleth lose the sword somehow? It's also possible that the sword having charges is now a canon part of its abilities and she can't use it at the moment, but I think it's possible that it was stolen and used to make the newcomer's relic. Even if he doesn't have Sothis' crest stone, maybe his new stone was forged from her bones and a new crest stone was used to give it power? If the new girl is an artificial goddess, for example, she may not not have sturdy enough bones to make a weapon, but could still have a functioning creststone to implant in him, or may not even have bones to recover in the first place. The similar stature to Sothis and being unable to shed her dragon skills fully as a human, or keep them from appearing on her host, could also be hints that she's an imperfect copy, and thus something that was in the pods we saw earlier, even if the guy came from another world.
Do whatever that you must.
Sothis' final words here are interesting too. She explains that revenge is a way to find closure, which could just be a continuation of her explaining why it is a bad idea to seek it for someone else, but she ends by telling Byleth that she will do whatever she must. If she really did give up the Creator Sword for some reason, could this be why? The trailer ends and we get a release date of just 4.5 months away, which is amazing. As for the story, while I'm not sure I like the thought of a golden ending, I'm intrigued by it so far. If you're curious why the new goddess sounds like she wants to stop the war while the guy is fighting Byleth, maybe both of them are trying to stop the war and entice Byleth with the promise of crushing those who slither in the dark before they kill Gerald, but Byleth realized that stopping the war caused even worse disasters later on. That could be an interesting angle to pursue, and it would also explain Sothis' lesson on revenge and ominous parting words, especially if both she and the new goddess died to bless their hosts as in the original story. We'll have to see, won't we? Thank you very much for making it to the end of this video. I hope you liked it. Please let me know what you think in the comments, and if I missed anything, please let me know that as well. And please subscribe if you want more content like this. Thank you all again, and as always, have a great day. Quick update, just after finishing this recording, I checked the official Nintendo site, and they added that the digital version will, long story short, help you gain support levels with your characters, which confirms that supports are indeed back. Though, again, this was something in the first Warriors game as well, so it shouldn't be that surprising. Also, I'm wondering if Claude's real name will come up in this story, and I'm sure the passion wolves will show up in some form. I just hope it's not DLC. Yuri, at the very least, is a lock, surely. As for the missing Creator Sword, in the first Hyrule Warriors, Link's Master Sword had a different moveset to his regular sword, so maybe that's what we're going to be getting here. Just something to think about, considering its strange absence so far. But of course, that still doesn't explain why she wouldn't use it in a main battle after awakening to Sothis' power, but again, we'll see. Maybe getting it back will be a super triumphant moment to make up for the absence of it so far.